Okay, let's if it's possible, let's blitz through All Out here. Okay, the 0 hour we'll just lock in together. We have Tomohiro Ishii against Eddie Kingston, Pac defending the All Atlantic Championship against Kip Sabian, Hook defending the FTW title against Angelo Parker, and then they added the mixed tag titles with Sammy and Ty Mello defending against Ruby Soho and Ortiz. So we have 3 title matches alone on the 0 hour.
Yeah, sorry, Wikipedia isn't even updated yet.
They probably can't fit. This is as much as their tables.
Look how small this font is. I have to zoom out to show this entire thing. Anyway, we can joke all we want, but we know at this point what the deal is with AEW and Tony Khan's philosophy. More is more. And
eight title matches on this show.
Yeah. I mean, at 4 real, 4.5 pay-per-views a year, I can understand some justification. I'm just the guy who always appreciates, I don't like double albums. I always appreciate, the albums that are 10 songs and all of them are bangers versus, something that's completely bloated. And as always, we tend to
when Tony Khan sits down to read a book, he's pulling out James Andrew Miller. Okay, that's what Tony Khan's going for every time.
Yeah.
Listen, this show though, Ishii and Kingston is going to be fantastic. They had the match at Capital Collision in May. I think that's going to be really, really strong. Pac and Kip Sabian, it's a very big match for Kip Sabian. You couldn't ask for a better opponent than Pac, and it's going to be early enough. That's going to be a red-hot crowd. Hook and Parker should be 2 minutes, and on a show like this, you need those matches. I don't even know if necessarily I'd put it on the buy-in. It should be maybe a little later on. And then you have the mixed tag, which it's on the show. I don't know if that's a match we're going to be thinking about by hour 4.
So then why do it? Is my question. Just to give them presence on the show, just to say, hey, I threw you a bone, you're on the pay-per-view. I don't think my attention span should be used for somebody's charity, to be on the show. Anyway, I don't care about it, but listen.
Wai Ting coming out of paternity leave with daggers.
Oh, somebody's got to make up for WH's broken connection, because I have a feeling he was wanting to elaborate on a bit there too. But I mean, who's interested in this? We just saw it. It was good. I don't need to see it again. But okay, it's free wrestling, so sure, whatever.
On to the pay-per-view proper. Bryan Danielson against Chris Jericho. Jericho has had a string of great matches this year, and he's in there with Danielson. And this is one where, whenever you look at this show, your automatic assumption is, man, it's some people are going to get shorted on time. That's never the case on these AEW shows. It's the matches you think are going to get time, they get time, and they're going to load this up. And I expect Danielson and Jericho to probably get 18 minutes.
18, really? Wow.
Yeah. I see it getting 16 to 18. I could totally see this having. Yeah, and I wonder if Jericho wants that opening spot on the pay-per-view, because it's been very good to him.
It'd be great. Yeah, it'd be wonderful for them. Yeah. I mean, I think, anywhere from 15, around the 15 mark would be very satisfying for these two. It's obviously, Jericho on a incredible run here. Really to kind of relive his self from 30 years ago against Bryan Danielson. So I think these two, this could be a show stealer.
Toni Storm, Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, and Hikaru Shida to crown the interim women's championship. A division that I think really does need some rehab coming out of this. And if that means putting it on Baker, that I do believe is the top star in this women's division, I think that's fine. It gives you the opportunity to, I think they want Baker to be the most focused upon performer here. Or you can take go with Toni Storm in a different direction. That seemed to be where they were going prior.
Yeah. I don't know if putting the belt back on Baker would be the best way to answer a lot of the criticism. I think you leave this show with nothing but, I think, more resentment towards Tony Khan's booking of the women's division if Baker leaves the champ. To me, Toni Storm is probably the more obvious pick here. If he's going to continue the course of building to a Toni Storm versus Thunder Rosa match. Do we know sort of the timeline for injury here for Thunder Rosa?
I mean, Thunder Rosa said she's not getting surgery, but it could be a couple of months.
Right. Okay. So in that time, like, do you, have a Tony Storm run so that, hopefully she still stays hot enough so that whenever Thunder Rosa is ready, you could still do that match, or do you delay the whole thing by putting the belt on a Britt Baker for the time being?
If they have a concrete return date, I think you can manufacture your stories towards a return. But if it's up in the air, you can't just wait and see for, like, if we're talking like maybe it's going to be this month, maybe it's going to be longer. I mean, how you can't just wait forever.
So if Baker wins, what would be the next direction?
I think at that point you could certainly get something out of Baker and Storm from this. There's also, I think, the inevitable split with Jamie Hayter. I see Jamie Hayter having a lot of breakthrough potential, but I don't think she's ready for the belt now. I would not be doing that. It's just a surprise, and now she's thrust into it. Yeah. Though that gets you to Baker and Hayter, but I think there's a better way to get there where it's Baker as champion, and then you kind of start to plant the seeds for Jamie Hayter moving on to her own.
Yeah, Baker really is the nucleus from which you can, spring a number of babyface challengers against. So, I mean, in that sense, it could make sense for her to leave. Are we completely discounting Hikaru Shida here?
She looked great on Wednesday. She gets over in most of her matches. Yeah, she's someone that is very, I think, underappreciated in this division.
Yeah, but hard for me to see her leaving with the championship.
They've had the title run with her. It's a direction you can go to, but it's not the one I would be expecting here. I don't look at her, and I would give Hayter a better odds than Shida. House of Black against Darby, Sting, and Miro. Probably late in the show, if we're going on past Sting matches, that he is someone you can put on at any point in the show, and it's going to be different from everything else. And this will be insane. This will just be insane.
You would think so. Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of, I guess, a rumor concerning Malachi Black lately. I don't think you'll see any evidence of it in the match itself. These are all three of them, all six of them, tremendous performers. The crowd will be electric. I think every interaction between any combination of these six will be fantastic. And the Sting spot, as always, will probably be the thing to remember the most coming out of it.
Jade Cargill against Athena for the TBS Championship. This will be one where, it's always, I think, a challenge when you're doing a Jade Cargill match on a pay-per-view that's loaded. And, this is going to be compared against all the other matches. And you've got someone very talented in Athena, but I don't think a challenger that anyone is buying. And that promo, it kind of like outlined, I think, what, like, the heel said what all of the audience says, that this is number 37 or whatever the number is.
Yeah. I mean, you're doing the streak with Cargill. I don't see Athena necessarily being built up enough to, justify breaking it at this point. The intrigue is to see what quality of match, they can come up with. Jade Cargill, honestly, like, history will look upon her as like somebody who's had to go through, I think, a lot more pressure than your average person, being so like new, yet having, giving equal airtime as like 20-year industry veterans. It's and being expected to deliver to a satisfying level. And she's not going to steal the show, everybody, but like, I think she at least does a capable job. And against Athena, as somebody has experience and as as much of a veteran as she is, she probably stands the best chance to have like maybe the best match she's had on pay-per-view thus far.
One of the biggest issues is with AEW, and like, you understand their desire not to do live events and stuff, but Jade Cargill is one. Since Double or Nothing, May 29th, she's had 4 matches.
Yeah, that's tough. It's tough to
two of which
much better.
Yeah, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 8:25, and 7:47. So, her last match was August 10th, but like 4 matches in a pay-per-view cycle from May until September. Like, it's really hard. And she's in, she has enormous pressure on her on these shows where, and rightfully so, that like your audience, like, you are watching like some of the best wrestling in the world, and that's what you are putting this up against.
It was part of my concern, when they decided to go with her for the TBS Championship against versus somebody else, is the fact that the spotlight is going to be on her for every single one of these performances. She can't just kind of go off on a house show even and like have a nothing match and fail, and without facing a certain level of scrutiny. Is her having the belt preventing her from just getting those smaller matches out of the way?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, I think they have done a very good job of making this TBS title like her belt, and it means something when she eventually loses it. And I think she has a ton of upside, but it's a big spotlight on her. I think it's even more so than we see where with a lot of the NXT talent where they're starting. It's to me, it's not the same bar that they have to clear when you're on a major pay-per-view like this. Jungle Boy and Christian Cage, a huge match for Jungle Boy, and this one will very, very much depend on the audience and how much they're behind Jungle Boy, because this is I think Jungle Boy has to win this match, but it's more so in how they get there versus just the outcome.
Agreed. Yeah, this too, I mean, has been incredibly heated. Anytime you introduce family into a war of words during a program, you should be following up in ring with just as much fire. So, how long do you think this one will be?
I mean, God, it's a very rare Christian match. I think this is one where you could I think it gets 15 at least.
I don't think it needs 15 personally, John. Like,
just be a big brawl.
Like, yeah, and then Jungle Boy wins in violent, fast fashion. Like, I don't think that's the worst thing. To really kind of cement just how angry he was at the guy. Do you see the feud continuing after this?
I kind of feel it's reached, like, now it's what's next for Jungle Boy, which is in AEW. That's a tricky position when you've built something up and now it's time to pivot to the next level. Like Wardlow, he was set up great to win that title, and then a bunch of factors occurred. He has not made that pivot to that next level. He's sort of just stood in place and he's cooled off. So I think it's as much of importance that this program ends and where you're going with the guy you're putting over for that reason.
And what about the Luchasaurus aspect of it? Like, that to me has still largely been unresolved,
That's the only way I would see this continuing, if Luchasaurus turns on Jungle Boy, which I think it's pretty convoluted at that point, where we're seeing like he was with Christian,
Marco.
Then he was with
Remember
Jungle
Marco.
Boy. Well, Marco's in he's in Hoffman Estates. He's on the Black Label Pro show as we speak. So he's there. They could always enlist him if necessary. Wardlow and FTR. Huge, important match, said this reporter, taking on Jay Lethal and the Motor City Machine Guns. I think this will be a very good match. It's I think this one better served earlier than late in the show. That would be my placement of it. And Wardlow, I think, needs to be, like, maybe Wardlow's the one that needs to get the pin at the end. Like, I think Wardlow is the most important person of these six, just in terms of a guy that does feel very much like he was just thrown into something that he has no attachment to.
I haven't been watching every single Rampage. Did we get when did we get the powerbomb spot?
We never got the powerbomb spot.
Okay.
That was what this match was going to be, the powerbomb. And then they just changed the opponents, and they took Singh and Dutt out of the match and replaced them with the Machine Guns.
Do we still get the spot, or is that just even?
I think you save that, because that's a great spot. I would want to build up to it a bit more, like telegraph it that they face off on Dynamite, and what you're getting ahead of time, because that will be a cool visual of him powerbombing that dude.
No doubt. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to just do it here, and it's
it wouldn't get lost. It would still be like on a pay-per-view stage, like him doing the big spot, I think would be at least somewhat memorable. But we're also talking about a 16 card show. A 16 match card, I should say. Yeah, any interaction between FTR and the Motor City Machine Guns, I think, will be fantastic. I almost wish that was just the match that we were getting, but
this is nuts.
Everybody's got to be on the show.
Casino ladder match. This too. Claudio, Yuta, Penta, Phoenix, Rush, Andrade, Dante Martin, and the Joker. You did more than enough to talk me out of wanting MJF in this spot. I don't like the idea of him coming back in a Joker spot. I think there's a much better way for like if MJF's coming back, it's at the that's how the pay-per-view ends.
Mhm.
That's how I'd want it to end. Not just it's throwing on the show. He wrestles a match and he wins a contract. I just think that really all that time off you've invested. Now it's time to pay this angle off, and you're just throwing him into a ladder match. That's the comeback.
I think we've got to learn not to necessarily get our hopes up too high for these casino ladder match jokers. You know, they could be anyone from like Matt Sydal level to I don't know, like whoever else.
We do not need a new debuting talent. Is that what you expect?
I think whoever is, in this spot is probably going to be sticking around at least for, a month or so to try them out. Could it be a return? Could there be somebody out there that hasn't been around in a while that you could see?
Adam Cole.
Yeah.
Tony Khan did say that by the end of this week, we will be at like full strength, and that would indicate like your comebacks are ready.
Okay.
So
possibly
Swerve in Our Glory against the Acclaimed for the tag titles. And yeah, this is, you've got two babyface tag teams. So they have that working against them. But
I wish that they spent more time building this feud. I mean, like the Ass Boys Acclaimed thing has been fun, but it's done nothing for me to drive my interest in seeing, Swerve in Our Glory versus the Acclaimed. Like it's a match put together really like in what, a week. It's for the championship, but like it's lacking any sort of real storytelling depth or emotion for me.
Does Max Caster rap about beating the developmental program?
Yeah, maybe.
And anything from Hunter's interview?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that would be the thing he would riff on. Sure.
Yeah. He'll probably incorporate something from Clash at the Castle. Tyson Fury is a very easy last name to rhyme off
of. Perhaps, yeah. Maybe something involving Colt Cabana.
I guess possible. Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs. Yeah, this is one where I really think that Ricky Starks, that they are like, this audience is so ready for this guy. At the same time, they've done a great job protecting Hobbs, but this is a very high profile spot for these two on wherever this ends up on the pay-per-view. The fact that they have a singles match, it's a big stage for both.
They are ready for Starks. I think it's more important for Hobbs to win. Like I don't think he's as established as Starks is yet, and this is as more important of a match for him, I would say, than it is for Ricky Starks. I think like we start to see him speak, and his presence I think is great. I could see this feud continuing a little bit longer than this, and for that reason, I think Hobbs needs to win.
If Hobbs wins, he should challenge Punk to a rematch at Arthur Ashe Stadium, where he faced him last year.
Ooh. Long-term story.
It comes up short again. Kenny Omega and the Bucks against Hangman and the Dark Order, John Silver and Alex Reynolds. I would imagine that these two matches are going to close the show with the trios and the title match. I think you could end. That's the last hour plus of the show. This trios match. This has been a phenomenal tournament. When you really digest the trios matches that we've gotten on a pretty regular basis, especially the elite matches and the Ospreay matches with Aussie Open. So they have their work cut out for them. But these 6 are going to exceed expectations. I have no doubt about that. This is a giant match for Silver and Reynolds to be involved with. You have all of the Hangman stuff with the elite. I would have liked at least another week to really, and we haven't seen the countdown show, so that's worth throwing out there too. But at the same time, this is the biggest overarching story of AEW's history. So the fact that you are bringing 4 of the members back together in this match, that's a big deal. And it's this to me, it feels like these trios titles feel like main event belts right away because of how this tournament has gone. And whoever comes out of it, I think you're going to get a hell of a final on top.
Certainly, if we compare like the past month of the trios championships to maybe the past several months of the tag team championships, like FTR aside, this trios division feels stronger than the tag team division right now. So I'm in total agreement. this has quickly kind of shot into like, the match I'm anticipating the most on this show. And so much of it is because of my already established interest in the Elite and Hangman Page storyline. And it wasn't really until this week where it just kind of crept up as, the next chapter in that very long story that they're going to tell. And for that reason, I think this will be full of emotion. It'll be full of depth of story. And for a lot of people, they might be sick of like the melodramatic moments in these matches by this point. I love it. The last 2 times they tried to tell one of these types of stories between, the Golden Lovers and the Bucks, or Page and Omega versus the Bucks, they were both my match of the year. So if this was of a similar caliber, I wouldn't be too surprised.
Who wins?
Great question. I think they'll make the Elite the inaugural champs.
Yeah, I think that gets the trios titles off to the strongest start. But Hangman beating any one of the Elite, that's also like a notable way to end this as well. They could also like do the curveball, much like they did on Rampage, and it's John Silver pinning Matt Jackson in this match as well.
Yeah.
Kenny Omega would lose to one of these guys. Like they love to do that stuff as well. But I imagine this is going to go probably 25. I'm thinking, and yeah, it's going to probably be a tremendous match.
I'm guessing this match really will steal the show. Like just looking up and down the card if I had to pick.
Yeah, I think that it has a very strong chance of doing that. I think that the crowd is going to be electric for this main event between Moxley and Punk. I don't know if it's going to be the best match on the show. It's also going to be totally different from the trios match that they're following. That would be my guess. This, much like Reigns and Drew, like this feels like this is the title match that is above everything else on the card. There is no question about it. And I do think that, we can certainly debate the 3-minute match that they did on television. They have, to me, greatly brought Moxley up from interim champion to on Punk's level, that you can make this argument that he is having this great run, and Moxley winning I don't think it's going to be hard to get this audience to bite on near falls and the idea that Moxley can win in Chicago. They've already kind of educated you with MJF that they are not going to keep Punk without blemish in Chicago. And deep in this match, I think those will be some of the biggest moments of the match, is the belief that Moxley is going to win this title. But I do see Punk coming out as champion at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, coming out of Sunday will be our true test to see like how effective the 3-minute match was. I don't doubt that, like, going into this, you've established CM Punk as the underdog, facing the guy who beat him in 3 minutes, and that'll get Chicago right behind him. I maintain that there's at least like some I think lack of justification for him getting a rematch so quickly that kind of breaks like the sporting aspect of and realism aspect of AEW for me. That just serves to grow resentment that I have for CM Punk. And maybe that's part of the intent. But yeah, in Chicago tonight, who the clear babyface and heel will be. And it'll be electric. And I imagine the match will be very memorable.
Do you see Punk winning?
Ooh, yeah, given like the whole MJF of it all, like, and that really kind of being the big, pot at the end of the rainbow. Sure. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of opponents for either guy. If you wanted to, like, Moxley's had this unbelievable run. I would say, like, if Will Ospreay did not exist, I think this would be the shoe-in for Wrestler of the Year. But I think Ospreay has had just an unbelievable summer that is going to make that very difficult. But with Punk, especially if you are going towards this heel direction, like that to me is the match for MJF to come back for is Punk. You still have Punk with the likes, Punk as a heel with Omega, with Danielson, with countless guys as well. Like you can have a really fresh run with Punk now. Year 2 is Punk as a heel coming out of this, where he's beloved in Chicago, but kind of hated everywhere else. And he definitely planted the seeds for that in the lead up to this with the heel promo on Moxley and
the page one,
the Page thing too as well. And if they go that direction, like that's another opponent that you could line up for a heel CM Punk afterwards. So there you go. Those are your 15 matches that we will be chronicling late into the hours.
And if that's not enough, Braden and Davey will be joining us as we also will talk about Worlds Collide on the same review, a mega show that will be here, I'm sure, for 4 hours on Sunday evening here at postwrestling.com.
Is this show 8 hours long? That's going to be my question at the beginning of that show. I'm going to keep things on track, folks. Don't you worry.